So Gabrielle, you can give it another 2 minutes as the speakers join in, as the audience join in.
Okay. Do you want me to start sharing my screen? I have the flyer of the event if you want. So.
Okay, no problem. You can proceed. Okay, fine. I think we can proceed to start. And yeah, so as every other person joins in, we can proceed to start the session. So I'd like to introduce Gabrielle, who's a speaker today. Gabrielle is a lead pentester in Canada, and she does a great job in the InfoSec industry, where she's willing to contribute to the different communities that we have around us and share knowledge to them. Also, she was featured as among the top 20 women. Yeah, there you go. I think that simplifies my introduction, but she's among some lead information security ladies that we have in this world, or in this world of ours. So you can see the different things that she's achieved from this screenshot, and therefore I believe we can learn more from her. And welcome everyone to attend this session, and I hope you learn something at the end of it. So welcome, Gabrielle. You can proceed with the session.
Thank you very much, Eve. So thank you for the introduction. I'm going to go to my next slide. So to realize my project of becoming a pen tester, I relied on an educational science concept called Apprenance by Philippe Carré. And this project involved 6 steps, such as e-learning, CTF, learning expeditions, internship, conferences, and volunteering. And so in order to document this approach, I created a blog to share my experience, and I also built an analysis grid of skills that was resulting from this whole project. And I achieved this goal by being hired as a pen tester in Canada. But I still want to learn as strong as I used to want to learn before. So now I'm going to introduce a little what is a hacker. So if you look up the definition of hacker, unless you go to specialized website, the general definition is pejorative, like you will find terms like snoop, for example, or there will be the notion of illegality. But basically, a hacker is someone who is going to hijack the use of a tool to do something else, someone who is curious about how a system works. And as you might know, there are different types of hacker. there have a white hat, gray hat, and black hat. But here we are going to talk about white hat, who are also known as ethical hackers. So what is pentest? Pentest is when you, oh, sorry, just to change my slide. Perfect. So pentest is when you try to break into a system to check its safety. So there are different types of pentest. And by doing a pentest, you will find different vulnerabilities and mention them so that they can be patched. And I'm going to present the different type of pen test we have. So there's external pen test. For this type of pen test, we are going to try to break into the target system from the outside of the network. So there are different methods for doing that. For example, we can try to find out if an administration interface of the target company system is available from the outside, like online. So for example, let's say you have a company called X, and if the employee of the company must use an application to take their holidays, if the login page of this application is available on the internet, it could be hacked and it could expose sensitive data. So we are going to try to connect to this application, and this will give us a first access into the client network. Okay, we have also vulnerability assessment. So this is, we are going to launch automatic scans to scan our customer IP, and we are going to analyze the findings. There is also internal pen test. So this is when you attempt to break into a system from the inside. So you are inside the customer network. And once you are at the customer location, you connect with an Ethernet cable and you try to become an administrator of the system. And the administrator has all the access on the system. So it's like someone who is managing to steal the personal data of all the people working in the company. We also have a Wi-Fi test. So we are going to check if the Wi-Fi is secure. So is it easy to connect to it? Is the password strong enough? Are the technology used reliable? And some technologies are depreciated because it's vulnerable. So a secure Wi-Fi will avoid that a cyber criminal can look legitimate in a network like any other person connected to the network. There's also social engineering. So some companies offer phishing campaigns, and they will do what an attacker would do, and we will be able to find out like how many people read the email and how many people clicked on the link. And this is going to be helpful for a company to make a better awareness campaign about phishing and cybersecurity. And there is physical intrusion. So we are going to try to break into a building. We can either make scenarios to try to manipulate people to let us in, like inventing a story, and then people will be more willing to let us in. Or we can break in at night, for example. And we also have like objectives and targets to reach, physical target to reach, like for instance, the room where are all the server or things like this. So if you want an example, I made an article blog about a physical security test I did, and it's on my blog here. I can share the link with you afterwards. There is also denial of service. So because different attacks can lead to denial of service. Denial of service happens when too many people try to access an application at the same time. The application becomes unavailable. So we will test those different attacks to try to evaluate the resistance of the system against these attacks. There's also red team. So the objective of the red team will be mainly to check the ability of a company to detect attacks rather than to try to find a lot of vulnerabilities. So this is more based on detection than on findings. Also, we can test applications, for example, web application, which is what I'm going to show you after as an example. We are going to try to access sensitive data, to become an administrator, and we are going to use what the attacks a cyber criminal would do. So for example, we have a SQL injection attack that will allow you to get information from the database, because the database contains all the information that are needed to run an application. But I will explain this more precisely just after. So now that we have seen the different type of pen test, I'm going to explain the steps of pen test. There are different phases in a pen test, because when we test, we do not go straight to the attack phase. We need to plan it with the customer, to define the scope, to take care of legal matters. This is the planning phase. We need also to gather information. After this, we have to gather information about the target. How does it work? What are the technology used? And so this is going to be the discovery phase. And after, we can go to the attack phase, where we have to take many notes in the process and to gather many proof. And finally, we are going to produce a report with explanation on how to reproduce the flow and how to correct it. So to go deeper, I can share with you what a typical day as a pen tester look like. So basically, before starting a test, I'm going to open my mailbox and send an email to the customer, because we want them to know when we are testing their platform, even though they gave us prior authorization. This is very important that we have the authorization, but sometimes customers like to know when you are starting the actual test, so that they can be able to see if it's an incident or if it's really us. Sometimes we have call to prepare new projects with customer, and we also have once every 2 weeks a meeting with the team to talk about our projects and how to be more efficient in our work. And most of the time, what you do is test and write reports. Like, you learn something new every day because you see different technologies. And I wanted to make a list of things that I like and don't like, but there are not really things that I do not like. So I'm just going to point out things I particularly like, which are learning from my peers and getting to discover new technologies and try new things. So yeah, that's about it. So what are the skills? So if you're interested in pen test and if you wish to know which skills are necessary, I'm going to present some of them. You have to be curious. You need to question everything. You need to be creative, and you have to be persistent. If something doesn't work, you have to try something else. You have to be very organized, because as I said earlier, when we attack, we need to take a lot of proof and everything. So we have to be well organized to be sure to keep everything properly. You need to love learning and sharing your knowledge. You can you can ask to people about what they are good at, because you gain a lot by communicating with other people. I mean, I have learned so much by talking with people and observe how they work. This really helps. Like, it helped me make an improvement on my practice. And also, you can share a blog to show what you can do. Like, you can write articles on LinkedIn or share CTF write-ups or anything. It doesn't have to be a blog, it can be anything. And it's also very good if you want to break into the industry to go in the wild, meet people from the community, get involved in the community like we are doing now, go to conferences or talks, talk to speakers, or you can create an association with your friend or things like this. So now I'm going to break into the technical part, and I'm going to dive in with with an example of web pen testing. So as you know, web pen testing is a type of pen test. So most of the businesses have a website, and even people have websites. So those websites can be a nest of vulnerabilities. So in order to keep people safe, you can help them by testing their website. And in this example, I'm going to explain some web vulnerabilities and to present some tools. And also, I'm going to take a moment to talk about what I've seen in real context. So as you probably know, OWASP is a non-profit foundation that aims to improve the security of web applications. So they have a top 10 of the most found vulnerabilities that you can see outside. So we will talk later in details about the first one, specifically for SQL injection and directory traversal, and the seventh one, cross-site scripting. And I chose to demonstrate those because they are very visual and you get really an idea on the risk it puts your customer to. So for the demonstration, I used Mutilide that I installed via Metasploitable 2, which is here. You can also install Mutilide alone on a web server if you prefer, but this is a vulnerable app, so be careful with this. And also, before I show you the demo, it is very important that you are aware that you must always have the authorization of the owner of the website to test the systems. Otherwise, it's going to be illegal. And the machines that I use in the demo are made for this purpose. So please remember that, don't hack away without having the authorization. There's plenty of resources, like plenty of vulnerable machine to work on. So I'm going to share resources after so that you can have also those. So what you will see in the demo, I'm going to talk about cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting is an injection of malicious code that will allow, for example, to retrieve an administrator session cookie. And in the injection points are the input that will allow the user to enter information. We also have SQL injection, so it's going to be injection of SQL code that can be used, among other things, to extract information from the database to bypass an authentication page. We also have directory traversal, which is going to let you access the file of the system, including files that an unprivileged user is not supposed to see. And for the tools, I'm going to present proxy tools like OWASP Zap and Burp Suite. And the main objective of those tools is to intercept, analyze, and modify, and also you can modify queries with those tools. OWASP Zap is open source and Burp Suite is proprietary. There's a free community version and a paid pro version. And as we navigate through the target application, the proxies will detect potentially vulnerable elements, and we will be able to analyze them and validate if they are indeed vulnerable. But there are also tools that will, in the proxy, that will help you to replay a request over again and over and over, so that you can check also things manually. Like this is mostly from manual testing. Also, you have fuzzers. Those are tools that are used to send a series of payload, or you can use them to brute force administration pages. It can be done with Burp Intruder, but you also have Derb or GoBuster. And with Burp Intruder, you can try, for instance, different cross-site scripting payloads on an injection point, for example. We can also try to like brute force an authentication form. And with them, you can list the directories of a website with a predefined list of words. And you can find those lists also online. There are plenty of resources for this. So now I'm going to show you my video demo of the vulnerability I mentioned. So the first one is stored cross-site scripting. So this is, as I told you earlier, this is a Mutiliday. This is an application that was made to be hacked. So here we have an injection point, and your input is reflected on the page, so you can actually see what you're going to put here. So everyone on the who is going to visit this page is going to be able to see what you put, because this is a blog with like you can add comments and everything. So I'm here going to inject a payload. This is a very classic payload, the basic alert payload, where you will have an alert that will pop up on the page. And there you have it. So you know that this page is vulnerable to cross-site scripting, and you can try to make more complex payloads to get the session cookie, the administrator session cookie. Okay. And so you can see here that the payload has been interpreted because it's not showing any text here. This is really code. And when you go to the show the source code, you can see your payload has been here. And it's just as if the developer initially put this here, but except it's you who were able to inject some code in it. So now we have SQL injection. So to practice SQL injection, you can try to bypass authentication. So this is also a basic payload that we use often, like in CTF, or we can also try those in real context. But they love to take this in CTF because it's also very visual. And so as you can see now, I'm logged in as admin. And now this is directory traversal. So this is the one where you are going to be able to see, to find server files, even files that you are not supposed to see as an unprivileged user. So here you have a possible input here with the home page. So you can try to find, like, if this is the server is on Linux, you can this file will have all the users of the server shown here. So you're not supposed to see this. And you can actually enumerate user. So now I'm going to show burp suite. So this is the proxy I mentioned earlier. And so you can intercept the request. So you just have to put intercept on, and then you will be able to see details of what is sent to the server. Like you have username, and you have a session ID, and you even have a user ID here. So this is, then you will be able to tamper with things here if you want to. You can try out things, and this is where you're going to do your manual test. And now this is derb. So derb is the one I mentioned about to find the directories on the target. So I'm going to show on this target, you can find many different pages. And so you have This here, phpMyAdmin, is a page to manage your where a web developer are going to manage their PHP code. You have the index page that you are supposed to see, but this is sensitive information. You're not supposed to see this here. This should not be accessible to you, but it is. And those code will help you determine whether you can access it or not. And when it's 200 code, it means you can access the page. Okay, and what I recommend also, if you want to learn about Pentest, you can install Kali Linux as a virtual machine using VirtualBox and explore it. There are many different tools there that you can explore, you can try, and it's a nice way to learn about pen testing and about things to do and different tools. So next, sorry. Sorry. So now I'm going to talk about what I've seen in real context. So I have seen a lot of cross-site scripting. So once I had to test this website that was globally very well implemented, but there was this feature of file upload in which I was able to download HTML file. It was actually designed to be able to download HTML file. So I built an empty HTML file and I did an XSS payload, the one I showed earlier, and that was it. It was vulnerable to cross-site scripting. I also have seen some SQL injection, like for example, the tool we usually use to dump a database, which is called SQL map, was not able to find the injection point. So I could not dump the database automatically. So we found a SQL function that could show the last request made to the database. And this was a Boolean-based SQL injection. So we had to check every char one by one to be able to find the request, the last request. And so even though we made a script that ran all night, we only got part of the request because the request was like 1,000 chars long. So it took some time. And now here are some resources like OWASP. This is what I mentioned earlier. You have the page for cross-site scripting, the page for SQL injection, and the page for directory traversal. And also, if you want to learn pentest, it's very important to practice. So I mentioned here resources for practice like Hackthebox, Certified Secure, TryHackMe, and everything. There are a lot of resources, and you can also create your own lab to practice, like I showed you with Metasploitable. And also, I made an article on how to get started with pen testing, and also I found that a lot of people were confused with the pen test report, so I decided to write a blog article about how to write a pen test report, and it's voluntarily simple, so that even if you're a beginner in the industry, you can understand it. And it's not, I really want it to be, because if it's too long, it can be a lot to tackle at the same time, but I made it simple so that it's easier. And there you go. So if you have any question, I will be very happy to answer. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I'm going to try to see if there are questions. Yeah.
So anyone with a question? I think Gabrielle, this session has been really amazing, and it's been a very simple one, and it's very easy to understand. So I think one of this audience is asking if you can share the resources and the useful links. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, with that also, we can update it on our YouTube channel for the different users to access it on YouTube also. So we'll just share all the resources that you've indicated to the different teams, to the different audiences that we had today on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put it here for them. And this is OWASP here. And this is also the article about physical pentest. Yeah, I think that. Like someone is asking the name of the YouTube channel. I'm going to paste the link here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle. This has been a very nice session. It's very simple. I think it has made our lives easier for anyone who's listening, unless they have any questions to ask on audio.
Okay. Someone is asking if I can explain more on directory traversal. Sure, I can explain more. It's in fact, you can avoid directory traversal by validating the input so that you cannot be able to manipulate the URL you provide to the people who navigate on the website. So I don't know if you have specific questions about this, but I really advise you to read the OWASP article about it because it's very well made, and the best way to understand it is to also practice. You can really find what's the point of a directory traversal, in fact, is to find sensitive files, like you are going to find, as I showed earlier, this is like going to, you were able to enumerate users of this web server, and you can also find different files from the server, and it can give you an initial foothold to the server, and then you can go, the next step after this is to escalate privilege and try to take control of the server. I hope it answers the questions. Any talk about pen test related certification? So you have, yes, you have different certifications. The OSCP is very well known in the industry because, employers like this one because it shows that you have practice, because they are going to give you a lab to practice on. I have the eLearn web pen test certification, which is also known by the industry. I think the best way, the certification is a little complicated because you can show what you know, but it's also, when you are trying to break into the industry, you not always have the means financially to buy certifications. So if you don't have the means, I would recommend you to show what you can do with a blog, or by doing CTF, or using free resources and everything. This is a way to show what you can do without having to pay a lot for certifications. But if you have the financial means for certification, I also recommend that you take one, because it's also like, it's definitely shows that you are able to practice. So there is, I can write some here, OSCP, there's EWPT, And so I can share the link of OSCP if you want here. Yes. Here, and also even security. They have also plenty of, they don't have only web pen tests, they have also different certifications like junior pen test or things like this. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Oh, I can copy and paste. There you go. And yeah, any other questions I could answer? Or maybe I can show something or. Okay, let me check. No.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I think I don't know. This has been a very informative session, and I've really liked it. And thank you, Gabrielle, for the different resources you've shared on chat. We really appreciate, and I think from there onwards, for the team that has joined in for today's session, we can try look further into doing the research that is needed, so we are able to do better work in terms of pen testing the different web application or different platforms that we have. And today we focused more around our web application. So thank you so much, Gabrielle. I believe we'll share out the resources on YouTube and also repost on Twitter so people can have access to the resources you've shared today.
Yes, and also feel free if anyone wants to contact me or to ask me questions. I'm always answering on LinkedIn, or so feel free to ask anything. I'm always happy to help.
Maybe if there's one last question in the chat.
Okay.
From Hilary.
Oh, yes. Any specific labs for insecure deserializations? I don't know of labs specific, but I'm sure you can find some on VulnHub. So I'm just gonna write it down for you. I can't. It's very strange. I can't say. Oh, yeah, perfect. Oops. So vulnhub.com. You have many virtual machines that are. You just have to install them on VirtualBox, and you can tackle. It can make many different labs, and you can search like on the website for insecure deserialization, and you should be able to find something. But I don't know of a specific one that I could recommend. I'm sorry.
Thanks a lot, Gabrielle.
Oh yeah, and Portswigger Academy is, yes, definitely a good resources. Thank you, Osioma, for mentioning it.
Is there anything really that is left from any participant? Okay, so we'll share all this information and append it on our YouTube channel so everyone can have access to these particular resources. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I think at least we've actually kept time, Gabrielle, for today's session. We normally end at around 8 thereby. But yeah, this has been a nice session to have today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone. I think we will see you all next week. Thanks again, Gabrielle. And I think we can end the session now. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you.